Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I'm just going to wait for you guys to tune in so we can continue our series. Let me put in my phone number. Good morning. I'm Garth Gunter. If this is your first time tuning in, definitely let me know it's your first time tuning in. And let me know where you're tuning in from, even if it's not your first time. While you're doing that, I'm just gonna pin my number real quick because it's hard for me to type numbers and talk. So give me a minute to do that. Um, Today, we're basically going to be continuing our series on signs of abuse in a marriage and to determine if you qualify for VAWA. Um, so just give me a second. 404 333 8751. Okay, I got that in there. Now let me pin it. Oh, Sty and Ka says, I always listen to you, but I never join your live. Too busy working. Well, that's good for you that you're working. And so I get the time now. I'm here to listen. That's awesome. I'm so happy that you're here today. Thank you for tuning in. And good morning, Facebook, as well. And good morning, YouTube. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aisha Chidoe. For those of you who don't know me, or if this is your first time tuning in, um, I'm an immigration lawyer. I help clients all over the U.S. with their immigration matters, family immigration, humanitarian-based cases like VAWA, T visas, U visas, fiance visas, consular processing, filing for your children, conditional removals, naturalization, appealing decisions, motion to reopens. Basically, we handle them all. Um, if you would like to schedule a consultation, my number here is 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751 if you want someone to call you back for a consultation. Um, so yesterday I started a series on, signs of abuse in relationships, as it relates to VAWA. So I'm just going to do a quick definition of VAWA for those who are tuning in for the first time and have never heard about VAWA and what it stands for, and then we'll continue the series. So VAWA basically is an act against violence towards immigrants. This can apply to you whether you're a man or you're a woman, whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or a same-sex relationship. Basically, if you're experiencing, somebody said repeat the number, just look down. It's right there. It's pinned right there so you can see it and save it right there on the screen. As I was saying, if you're experiencing extreme cruelty or abuse from your U.S. citizen spouse or your green card holder spouse, you may be eligible for VAWA if you meet certain requirements. This series is really focusing more on the abuse component. There are obviously some other requirements, and I can try to take those in little chunks, but to this series that I'm doing over the next few days is really focusing on the abuse component, because for a lot of people, they don't understand, or they say, I don't have any evidence of physical abuse, so I don't know how I can qualify, or how would they believe me, if I don't have any physical evidence. Also part of some of what I talked about yesterday about emotional abuse, is that when someone has gotten to you psychologically, or, gotten into your mind, even you yourself start to think that you're crazy and that what you're saying doesn't make sense, etc. So today we're going to touch on like sexual abuse, get into some financial abuse, and let's see what else we have time for. So a lot of times, victims of VAWA or victims of abuse, um, you know, if it's not physical, they don't believe, they feel like, okay, maybe it's not abuse because it wasn't physical. If you watch yesterday's video, like I said, you'll see some things that we would consider as physical abuse, even though someone did not physically um, touch you. So with sexual abuse, some of the things that we see, of course, there is such a thing as marital rape, and I can't tell you how many times, people are shocked, that there is such a thing as marital rape, you know. And marital rape is basically when your spouse says no and is very serious about no. For some people, they believe, I don't really care. You're my spouse. You must do it. And if you're forced to do it or you're pinned down to do it, that is marital rape, because you didn't want to do it and you didn't agree to do it. So this is not one of those, oh, I don't want to do it and you really want to do it or you don't really care. But this is like you're forced to do it and you feel violated because you said you didn't want to do it. That's marital rape. Other forms of sexual abuse is calling your spouse sexual names, making fun of your spouse's intimate or intimacy abilities, making fun of your spouse's size, for I don't want to be too crass, on social media, but like comparing or sending, let's say, and a lot of women do this particular one, and women, please don't come for me. I'm just trying to illustrate something here because both men and women are guilty of so many different things here. But what we see women do a lot, like to literally pierce their male partners, is that they will show them like pictures of private parts. Like I'm telling you, like we see all sorts in the office, like, show them like other men they've been with and their private parts, and like, you'll never be as good as this. Look at this, look at what I, have here, and you'll never be that. For a lot of men, that is something that is extremely humiliating, from a psychological standpoint, an emotional standpoint, and even from a sexual standpoint, because for them, it can affect them, and how they view themselves as an intimate partner. Some other things are also like, where you don't have a say in family planning. For instance, some men might want to have kids, and maybe the woman doesn't want to have kids, and they don't really have a say, in how their family planning works, or they have no idea that their spouses are using birth control, even though they agreed that they were going to, try and have children together, and vice versa, where you're forced, to have babies. So your spouse refuses to use any form of protection because, they want to have it, So while other people don't really have a say in what a woman can do with her body or not her body, but typically when you're in a marriage and there is issue of children versus no children, this is a decision that both spouses should be making, or purposely getting pregnant, knowing that this is not something that your spouse wanted and you don't really give them the opportunity to accept or agree to become, a father. Some other things are knowingly putting your spouse at risk of a sexually transmitted disease or sexually transmitted infection. And how do people do this? Sometimes people, they sleep around, don't use protection, and then the spouse finds out about the infidelity because they get sick, or they get HIV, they get some STI, STD. Again, these are all things that we see, on a daily basis happening. Um, Sometimes you might find something that your spouse is suggesting from an intimacy standpoint as morally repugnant or something that's against your morale, and you're forced to do it because they believe that, again, you're married and what I tell you to do, you have to do it. And then, of course, patterns of infidelity, patterns of cheating and sleeping around with other people. So these are some things that can fall under sexual abuse that some, as I mentioned, are not necessarily a physical slap or whatever it is, but are all part of abusive behavior. Then, of course, we move into financial abuse. We see financial abuse in almost every VAWA case, almost, every VAWA case. A lot of times, a lot of immigrant men, let me speak of Caribbean and men of African descent, I'm going to use men just because, we deal a lot with them. Um, they come from a society or background where there's a sense of responsibility. And maybe that's how it is all over the world. I don't know, but I'm just going to speak about this, where for them, they feel that they have to take care of their household, they have to take care of their wife, they have to take care of the children, whether they're stepchildren and those children have another parent, or whatever the case may be. And so, for a lot of U.S. citizens that are abusers, the ones that are, what happens is they decide, you know what, I no longer want to work. I no longer, want to provide. So my money is my money, but we're going to use your money. So for everything in the house, you're going to pay the bills. You're going to buy me this. I mean, we have people where the person barely has a work permit and the spouse is asking for a Range Rover, and the person doesn't even have any clothes to wear, and is wearing torn clothes. I was like, no, you got to buy me a Range Rover. You got to buy me this. You got to buy me that. I will never forget one of the interviews that I went into with a client who was filing for removal of conditions on his green card. And, he had experienced a lot of financial abuse, including the fact that his wife wanted him to upgrade her car from, like, she had a Kia to a Range Rover. This was a person that was working just a regular job that would never qualify for it, but she didn't really care. And so she decided, well, I'm going to screw you over. You're not going to get your 10-year green card. And I remember the officer saying, it's very interesting because she's been doing this for 20 years, and that she can usually, like, when couples, like a married couple would come in, sometimes the guy will look all tattered and battered, like someone that has been working their asses off. Can I say asses on Instagram and YouTube? I don't know. But anyway, working their butt off. And, you have this woman, her nails are all done. And she's wearing her, the most expensive earring, designer bag, designer this, designer what. And she asked the guy, like, what is your job? What do you do? Ask the woman, what does she do? And the woman usually would have no job, and that she usually is able to predict the people that will last or not last. And that because they know a lot of immigrants, work really hard, and they have that sense of responsibility, people take advantage of that. So, of course, that's a form of financial abuse. Or if they force you to work, under the table and say, like sometimes you have, a spouse that's like, I know you don't have your papers, but you must work. You must go work under the table. Like you're not man enough. Like go get a job. Like go work under the table. I don't care how you do it. Go do it. That's a form of financial abuse. Or if you are working, and they threaten to report you, to the IRS or to immigration, that you are working, trying to support yourself, because for them, they want to cut your source, of finances. Because, one thing, or one pattern, or one thing that we see a lot with, abuse cases is control. And a lot of times, financial is a very big form of control where people are not able to leave, especially if you live with your abuser and, you don't have the financial means to live. I've seen people stay in a household where it's like, I know I need to live, but where am I going to live? I'm scared of going to a domestic violence shelter. I don't know what's going to happen to me there. How am I going to stay there? We've had a client that had 3 children. That's very, very, very atrocious abuse. There's some clients that you meet with them, like I'm in tears, like hearing what's happening. And I remember, that client was able to get out of that marriage. She ended up overcoming her fear and taking her and her 3 children to the shelter, and once she got her work permit, and by the grace of God, the shelter was actually able to put her in an apartment rent-free for 2 years to allow her to save money, to be able to buy her own house or, rent her own apartment, but just to release that financial pressure. And just the idea that, just this small video that she watched, and she'd been married to this person for 10 years and suffering, was what changed her life, you know? So that's how sometimes, and then, you know, for a lot of women too, you know, where if they're home makers, or like, you know, stay at home moms and taking care of, you know, the husbands can do that because you know, there's no way for them to get out because they don't have the financial means to get out of the situation. Um, and then, you know, if you have a spouse that like monitors your spending, it's like, okay, bring all the receipts. Let me look at all the receipts. Oh, why did you buy this? Why didn't you buy this brand? Why didn't you buy this brand of bread instead of this brand of milk? You know, why did you get this one? Why did you get that one? And you're fearful every time that, you know, you go over budget slightly, or, you know, you spend that. And then you have those that will literally take your social security card and tell you, well, you owe me. Like, let's say they filed for you before, and you got a social security card, but, you know, your case hasn't been approved, and they start opening credit cards, taking out loans, taking out car notes with your information. And the first time that you're finding out about it is either you get it at a decline, or you're getting a letter saying that they've approved you for the credit, and you're like, wait, what? I didn't apply for anything. So that happens as well. Um, and then you have spouses that are very strategic that would literally deny you access to bank accounts. Like, you know, so you have no access to the bank account. Every time that you need money, you have to go to that person to get the money. So that way they can hold on to that control that they have over you. So those are some, you know, and then, oh, one more really good one that we see a lot with financial abuse is when they're working, they try to jeopardize their jobs or try to get them fired. You know, another funny story, it's not funny actually. We had this spouse that would call she knew that her spouse could not receive phone calls, but she will call the office number and the person's cell phone every 5 minutes on the dot. Every 5 minutes. Like, he could have like 30 calls during the work. Like, if he doesn't pick up, she would keep calling, keep calling, keep calling. And then if he doesn't pick up, she'll call his manager. And you cannot convince me that there's anything else other than to get him laid off or fired, as far as why she was doing that. So for, you know, a lot of these people, they do that to get them fired, or they do that to say, you know, if you're not going to pick up the call, I'm going to call your boss, and I'm going to threaten you, and I'm going to threaten your boss as well to fire you because you are undocumented or you don't have your work permit, so they shouldn't even be hiring you. And then, okay, so those are some form of financial abuse. I'm going to talk about verbal abuse, and then I'm going to let you guys ask some questions, and then we'll continue with like part 3 tomorrow. So, of course, you know, verbal abuse, a lot of that is self-explanatory, you know, which is name calling, calling you out of your name. You know, they continually criticize you. Everything you do is never good enough. They accuse you of cheating, you know, with no proof. But, you know, a lot of times people who accuse you of cheating, what I've seen, you know, in this areas, that they're probably doing something, you know, and so they're very paranoid that if they're doing something, you must be doing something, or because for them, it helps them to feel better about what they're doing. They embarrass you through social media. Sometimes some people will post intimate moments on social media as a way to disgrace their spouses or embarrass them, you know, or call them like, you know, names on social media so that they are laughing stock, you know, on social media. They send you like negative messages, um, you know, on social media. You know, basically they tell you, they attack your physical appearance. You know, sometimes they'll say, you know, like, why are you wearing that? Like, you know, you look horrible. You know, in that, I don't like my women to look like this. I don't like men with beard. You need to shave your beard. I don't want to ever want to see you with a beard. You know, like, so different things like that. They basically just think about it as you're degraded, and you feel, you know, you really, it affects your self-esteem. You know, it affects your self-esteem, and especially because if the closest person to you that's supposed to, you know, love you and who you are, physically, and protect you from, you know, whatever it is they're doing on social media, are the ones doing it to you, you know, Those are some types of verbal abuse. Okay, guys, let me take some questions. Um, okay, so Milton Torres on YouTube says, I have advanced, let me make the screen bigger. It's so tiny. I have advanced parole through VAWA. And for those of you who don't know, advanced parole is just a travel permit. I came in illegally, but besides that, I don't have any legal issues. I have a company with 50 employees. Is it safe to travel on advanced parole? First of all, Milton, that is amazing and good for you that you have a company with 50 employees, which means that you're employing so many people, here in the United States and giving them, or, wherever they are and giving them the ability to work and earn a living. Without seeing your history and making sure that you don't have any deportation order or you're in proceedings, it's hard for me to tell you whether it's safe for you in particular to travel or not. I would need to know that. However, if you did enter, let's assume like you entered the country without inspection, and then you submitted a VAWA application and you got approved advanced parole. If you got approved advanced parole and your case is still pending, your VAWA case is still pending, you certainly can travel. Make sure you're not traveling towards the end or close to the expiration of the travel permit, and you should be able to come back. Just make sure that you take all your documentation. Whenever you're traveling outside the country and you have a case pending, it's very important that you take all your documentation and then also a photocopy, because I can't tell you how many times that people travel and, stuff gets stolen or stuff gets lost. So I always say take a copy and make sure that you're putting your copies in separate locations. You can also scan a copy for yourself and send it to your email. So if something happens, you can always go print it out and have a copy of whatever it is. Okay. YouTube says, YouTuber says, I recently got married, 3 months now. Congratulations. What documents do I need to file for my work permit as I gather more evidence to file for my green card at a later time? Unfortunately, you can't even do that. Like in order for you to get a work permit, you must file for a green card application. So you must file for your I-485 in order for you to get your green card application. You need to schedule a consultation though, if you want me to go over what the requirements are and what you need for the green card application. But basically, your work permit is given to you based on the fact that you have a pending green card application. So you need to file it together. All right, Instagram. I see so many questions. Let me try and answer as many as I can. Is getting a prima facie determination a good thing? Yes, it is. So prima facie determination letters are kind of like a pre-approval that you get if you're a VAWA applicant. And so basically it's saying that you've met the minimum requirements to be established as a VAWA victim. And typically they would give that to you, and it comes with some benefits, which is very state specific, to allow you to hold on to that, you and your children, all children that are non-citizens under the age of 21, while they continue to process your case. So yes, a prima facie determination letter is a good thing. Let's see what else we have. All right, let me see what else we have here. How long do you take a VAWA case filed together? From the time you're hired to the time you file the case. It just really depends. Is it an abeyance case? Is it a VAWA with adjustment of status case? Depending on our workload, it's very different. So it's hard to give you an exact number, but it will take a couple of weeks. And one of the things that we do at our office is that we help our clients with the FBI report, and so sometimes with the FBI fingerprint that takes at least another 2 weeks. Good morning. Can you work with your Social Security without a work permit? So I cannot tell you to work illegally because I am an officer of the law. So I can't tell you to work without authorization. However, what I can tell you is that there are people who work without a work permit, with their social security. However, if you do ever list on any documentation that you're a U.S. citizen, you will no longer be eligible for a green card or or citizenship through a marriage-based petition, VAWA petition. Basically, the one of the only ways you would be able to do that is if you're a victim of a serious crime and you file for like a U visa, something like that. So that's where I'll leave that answer. BGL Donald says, you're representing our people. Good job. I'll call you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, so Tevin, I guess this is a follow-up to your question. I got my Social Security, but not my work permit yet. Can I work with my Social Security? So if you look in your Social Security, it will specifically tell you right on there, you cannot work without authorization of your employment card, which is your work permit. So you need the two together. That being said, if you got your Social Security through an immigration petition under your I-485 and you submitted a work permit, it means that your work permit is on the way. A lot of times, work permits will typically come like a week or two before Social Security. So hopefully in your case, it's just a switch around and that it's on its way. Love Ladigigi says, what if you jumped the border and came? So the question is too vague. I don't know, but I will talk about it in the context of what we're talking about. We're talking about VAWA right now and being able to qualify for, green card through being a victim of domestic violence or abuse with your U.S. citizen or green card holder spouse. If that is the case with you, even if you cross the border, you can still be eligible to file for that and get your green card that way without you having to leave the country, basically. Okay? Okay, and then your follow-up question said, what if you do that? What if you cross the border and then you get married? Can you fix your papers like that? If you cross the border and you want to then do, you marry and you want to do an adjustment of status, you're not going to be able to do an adjustment of status because in order for you to do an adjustment of status, you have to basically have entered into the country legally and with inspection, unless you're eligible for other benefits like VAWA or like a T visa, which is human trafficking or labor trafficking, or like a U visa, which is being a victim of a serious crime. So if you're married and you cross the border, your spouse can file an I-130 for you. The I-130 is approved. Then a hardship waiver can be filed. That's a hardship to your U.S. citizen spouse or green card holder spouse or your U.S. citizen or green card holder parent. If that is approved, then you'd have to go back to your home country and do what we call consular processing. And then once they approve you there, you'll come back in. So that's the only way that you'd be able to do it, unless you qualify for one of these other things that I mentioned, or unless maybe you crossed the border when you're younger and you got DACA and you have a travel permit and then you're able to leave the country with a travel permit and then enter back into the country. And then that will now count as a legal entry and then you can then do it that way. It's a lot of little nuances, happy to get more into it like in a consult and stuff. Bio on YouTube says, does an EAD come with a travel permit? Most of the time, so not automatically. In order for you to get a travel permit, you also have to apply for a travel permit. So you apply for an EAD, but you must also apply for a travel permit. A good number of times it will come as a combination card together. Other times it will come as an EAD card and your travel permit will come like a paper with your travel permit approval, like a green paper with your picture and stuff. Those don't happen as often as a combination card, because obviously that's a better use of their resources. If a child has a green card, can she file for her parents? Unfortunately, no. In order for a child to file for their parent, the child has to be over the age of 21 and they must be a U.S. citizen. Okay? Virgo says, what is the wait time for VAWA work permit and advance parole? class C9, you're looking at anywhere from like 4 to 9 months. Again, whenever I give you guys this timelines, this is a very broad, um, window. It could be, sometimes you can be lucky and it'll be a little earlier. Sometimes you'll be not so lucky and it'll be a little later. But I would say that 75 to 80% will fall into the 4 to 9 months window. My petition was saying 4 weeks to make a decision. Now it's saying as of yesterday, 8 months to make a decision. Is that normal? I already received my work permit and my social security number. Well, yes, that's why I keep telling people stop reading that stuff. It's nonsense. They just started putting that there to try to appease people from calling them, to reduce calling them. It really is no indication of when your petition will be, when a decision will be made. So I would say instead, you're better off just going with what the average timeline is and only worry when you have passed that average timeline. I'm trying to get married, but my partner smokes weed. I don't want to marry him until he stops because of his physical. Is that the right decision? Well, um, I thank you for entrusting me and asking me that question, but I'm not a marriage therapist, so I don't want to give you an advice on that or what to do. Just know that I'm going to take off my my lawyer hat for a second, and I'll put on my hat of someone who's been married legally as of tomorrow. Actually this week I'm going to have to check my anniversary date, for 14 years. It is marriage is something that if you have something that you're concerned about, it will be amplified when you get married. So if your spouse in the honeymoon phase, not your spouse, your fiance or boyfriend in the honeymoon phase is smoking something that's affecting his psyche, where he's getting physical with you, um, it will most likely continue after the fact. So maybe that's something you guys might need to speak to a therapist about. Maybe that's something you might need to help him get help with, if that is somebody that you love and you want to spend the rest of your life with. But it's something that you have to look within yourselves. I believe that we as human beings have very strong instincts, and we know when something feels right or feels wrong. This is your opportunity. If your instincts are saying this is not a good idea, to maybe walk away. If not, then just see how you can help that person, with getting some help. Okay. Can someone file for somebody on a green card and still get you? Cast 1630. I'm not sure I understand the question, so maybe if you can rephrase or retype. Okay. My niece came in the country 20 years ago by boat. She's about to get married. Good for her. And can she ever get her green card? There's so many variables to that. I would love to screen her to see if there's something she may qualify for that would get it to her. On its own, through marriage, she can get her green card. However, she would have to go back if that is her only option. But again, happy to screen her to see if she may qualify for other options that might be available. Okay. Is it necessary to post a lot of pictures with my boyfriend in order for us to file for a fiancé visa? If it is, how long should we post? No, it's not necessary. And you shouldn't be posting pictures because of immigration. You post pictures because your heart and spirit feels like doing that. Like if you just post pictures, it should be something organic that you're doing naturally, not for immigration. There's no rule like to pictures, posting pictures or not. Like with fiance visas, a lot of what they're looking at is the legitimacy of your relationship. They usually want you to tell them how you met that person and tell them how you met, how you fell in love, when you guys met, how you felt. They want to know like nuances and details of that. They want to see those calls that you guys have with each other and that you're talking to each other, and you're planning your future together. They want to know when you come here, within 90 days, what are your plans to get married and stuff like that. If you have pictures, of course, that's an added benefit, like when you travel, to see them and all that stuff. Definitely do that. Um, Karen Whitaker says, does the EAD card look like the work permit? So the work permit and the EAD card is the exact same thing. It's just some people call it EAD. A lot of times when I talk to you guys on live, I try to use simple terms so that I'm not using like legalese where it's difficult for you guys to understand. But a work permit is the exact same thing as an employment. EAD just means an employment authorization document card or the paper that comes with it. So you get both the card and a green paper that's the approval. The approval usually is not active without the card. The card being the most important piece. It's the exact same thing. And then I see that you asked again, does a travel document look like the work permit? If you heard me when I said it previously, the travel for some people, more people than not, that if you applied for a travel permit, your work permit is going to be the exact same card that you used as your travel permit. Usually, it will write it right there on the bottom. It will say, "This also serves as your, I-512 document, which is your travel permit." If it doesn't, it will specifically say it on there that it doesn't serve as that. Okay. Um, how do I prove emotional abuse? Very good question. One way to prove emotional abuse is one, your testimony. You writing a very thorough, descriptive, and comprehensive and credible testimony of what you experienced. That's number one. We call it a personal declaration. Number two, getting a psychological evaluation where you're able to share with a therapist, what you've gone through, and then being able to evaluate it and say you're most likely telling the truth. Another way is for we as human beings, sometimes, when these types of things happen, we find somebody to seek solace in and confide in. If you have anybody that's you've told, or you've cried to or explained what you've been through, they can write you a letter telling what they know happened. Sometimes that could be a pastor, sometimes a member of your church, sometimes your sibling, sometimes your parent, sometimes a best friend, sometimes your employer. When I started the live earlier, I talked about a client where the wife kept calling his job like every 5 minutes, like 30 times a day, calling. In that case, the employer wrote um, and corroborated that she kept calling and it was too much. He had to let him go because it was like, we can't have this drama, you know, in the office. Okay. Um, all right, let's see what else. Trona says, can someone file for two persons at the same time? Yes, depending if it's for marriage and children, you can. You just have to show that you meet the income. You can file for two children at the same time. You can file for a spouse and a child at the same time. I mean, you can file for two spouses at the same time because, as you know, in the U.S., polygamy is illegal. But otherwise, you can. You just have to make sure that you meet the income to file for both of them. Okay. I'm filing without my spouse for a waiver to remove the conditions on my green card for 10 years. However, I have a son who is 8 years old. Can I file with him? And if so, what form should I file for my son to be included? Artha, this is a good question. The answer will really depend on when your son, your 8-year-old, got his green card. Did he get his green card because your spouse filed for him as an immediate relative? And did that happen within 90 days of you getting yours? If it did, you can actually include him in your own application. We'll be happy to help you with that. I certainly don't recommend a self-preparation for a waiver on conditional green cards. You should definitely use a lawyer because conditional green cards are some of the most emotionally intense interviews. Out of all interviews that I experience with my clients with the USCIS, because that's the one time that they really get into it about the abuse and get into why you've been married X, Y amount of times and you don't have something. So definitely not one I recommend doing by yourself. Okay. Melanated Skin says, LOL. I know I don't want to waste my time. Well, there you go. You know what your answer is. Um, Suki says, how long is it taking for work permit renewal for asylum seekers with pending applications? I don't handle asylum cases, but you can actually check that online, USCIS case processing time, and it will tell you. Okay. I got 3 prima facies already. I don't get another one. I think I'm stressing. Is this looking good? If you got 3 prima facies, I'm assuming your case is probably over 2 years old. I'm not sure if you're one of our clients. If you are, you can definitely reach out to us, and we're going to try and see if we can do an expedite or see what is taking so long for them to make a decision. But once you have a prima facie, you have a prima facie, whether a new one comes in the mail or not. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. Hey, Al Boogie. Thanks for tuning in. That's one of my really good friends. What form do we need? Okay, not answering this question. Um, Oh no, I was born in the United States. It's my boyfriend. He jumped the border, LOL. Not me. So I'm guessing the only way for him to be straight, he gotta marry me, right? I mean, sure, if you guys are trying to get married and live together, he can certainly do that, but most likely he'll have to go out of the country to, finish his process. Mm. Omzi says, how long does it take to have an interview after filing an I-130? So if it's just an I-130 standalone, I guess there are very few times that they call you for an I-130 standalone interview, unless there's something that they're trying to gather evidence about, or like you're in removal and stuff. But most I-130 cases can take anywhere from 12 to 24 months, depending on what service center is processing your case. Um, what happens if I want to get a divorce while waiting for the I-751 to get approved? What happens is that you need to notify USCIS and let them know that you are amending your application. Like this is assuming you actually do get the divorce. That you want to amend your application and request a waiver of joint filing because you and your spouse have divorced. Okay. But even though you're requesting a waiver for divorce, you still have to show that you and your spouse, in fact, did have a bona fide and a good faith marriage, because that never goes away. Like you must prove that. Brian Alvarado says, I applied for VAWA 7 months ago and no prima facie yet. I only got the USCIS receipt that they received my case. I wouldn't worry too much, but you can certainly send a letter through your, I don't know if you have like an attorney, through your attorney, or send an actual snail mail letter yourself, just asking for that the status of your prima facie determination letter. A lot of times, what might cause a delay of your prima facie is you don't meet all the preliminary requirements, and usually if you don't, they would normally send you a request for additional evidence. So either way, they should be sending you one of the two. It's possible they sent it, maybe went to the wrong address, or they issued it but they never sent it, because that happens sometimes too. Okay, I'm going to take a few more questions and then I got to jump off. What's the cheapest way to get the divorce without spending thousands of dollars to hire a lawyer to draft a divorce paper? You're talking to the wrong person. Go hire a lawyer. I believe that things that are important and are critical to your future and to your life, you should always not you shouldn't always think about what is cheap. You should think about what is quality, what is valid, what is going to get me what I need easily, because at the end of the day, it's yourself. It's not about the lawyer, it's yourself that you're investing in. If you have a contentious, a contentious divorce with your spouse or issues with your spouse, you don't want to go submit something that could eventually, based on what is written in that decree, affect you later on. There are many, you know, um, clients, of African descent that are dealing with that right now, where green cards are being taken away from them, or the cases are being denied because they didn't go the correct route, which, in certain countries you must use a lawyer, and they were like, oh, let me just send my friend to go do it. I'm just going to figure it out myself. And they said those divorces are not valid. So, I will always say, if there is an opportunity to use an expert at something, use an expert at something. It's like, I'm a lawyer, like, but there are other areas of law that I don't practice. And if I needed a lawyer for those areas, I will hire a lawyer. I've been waiting for my green card for 2 years. I've been married for 3.5 years. Now my husband wants to file for divorce, and I haven't received my green card. I don't know what to do. INA, call me 407-995-6567, schedule a consult, and we'll walk through it and come up with some suggestions. Okay. When somebody comes up on a visa, can a green card be filed for them? Depending on the grounds of the green card application, possibly. It depends. I filed for a VAWA application 2 months ago. I haven't received any response. How long does it usually take? Should I be worried? Celia, Gabriella, I wouldn't be worried. However, it's very annoying. I agree, it's very annoying. There was a time like 2021, early 2022, when you submit a VAWA application, you get your receipt within like 4 to 6 weeks. But it's just been really crazy, recently, like where it's taken them months to give receipts, and sometimes clients think we're just kind of like sitting on the receipts, but it's really immigration being delayed. They even opened another office to be able to take and reduce that overflow, but we're definitely seeing a backlog. So it sounds just about average. Hopefully you get it soon. Okay. I'm a green card holder. I filed for my son and they sent in for his medical. They received it. It's been 4 months. It's not approved. Is it normal? My son is under 21. Well, right now, visas are no longer available. So it will just depend on your son's priority date. So what they're doing now is some of those cases that they had pending, they're just sitting on them until the visas become available. So that's probably what's happening with you. Oh, did I lose connection? Did I lose? Can you guys see me on Instagram? Let me know if you can see me. Okay. Let's see. Some questions I like follow up of other questions. So I have to skip it just because I can't understand the rest of it. Okay, so my friend's VAWA case has been approved. My friend's VAWA case has been over 31 months. She got her work permit and her prima facie letters. She's worried it's taking too long. What's the longest VAWA case you've had? She filed with a lawyer. I don't know by heart. Like, we do so many cases. I don't know. But, generally when a case is taken up to 31 months or more, even though most VAWA cases take 24 to 30 months, when you're towards the latter, there's usually something that is causing a delayed investigation. A lot of times when we see that, it's people that have been previously married or have filed something previously with USCIS, defective divorce, or potential suspicion of fraud. That being said, an expedite request can be filed, and they have to be prepared for whatever the decision that's going to be, to see what's causing the delay. Okay. After filing the I-360 alone, which is a VAWA application, is it okay to send it in an I-485 and 765 later on? Yes, only if you qualify to send it. And the way and how you qualify is if you're filing it based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, you're filing it based on you having a 21-year-old child who's a U.S. citizen, or you're filing based on being a child under 21 who has a U.S. citizen parent. So in those cases, yes, it's okay to send the adjustment of status. Um, if you have a green card holder spouse, we will want to look and make sure that your priority date is current, and if it is, then we can send it, because before, in the last 2 years or 3 years, what am I saying? Since like 2020 or end of 2019, we were able to send the green card and the work on the U.S. citizen spouses simultaneously. It changed this September. And so priority date now is very important to know when you can submit an adjustment of status. And this is also one of the reasons why, you know, I always say to you guys, when you qualify for something, it's very important that you submit those applications. Do not drag your feet on something. Find a way to source and finance whatever your immigration case is. Just because immigration is such a fast moving area of the law, even for us, like as lawyers, we have to stay studied up, because what I know today might be a different rule tomorrow if a new administration comes in, or a new, immigration director comes in. Like, the rules change, or something was sent to the court. The court will say overthrow this one, and then this is the new rule, and then 2 months later, nope, we're bringing this back. So that's how immigration works. So it's like PTSD for like those of us in the legal field. So for you guys, when you qualify, you want to lock yourself into that qualification and submit your application. Okay. All right. 2 more questions, and then I am jumping off. I've been here for almost an hour. Zach Matthews says you have to be a citizen in order to file for someone. That is absolutely incorrect. You do not have to be a citizen to file for someone. Your process may look a little different, or zigzaggy, or longer, but you can file for someone as a green card holder. The types of people that a green card holder can file for are their spouses and their children. Any children that you're filing for must be either under 21, and they're in a different category. If they're over 21, you can file for them as long as they are not married. Okay. Last question. If someone comes here on a visa, can a green card holder file for them here? Only if the person that came on the visa is still in status, meaning the I-94 or is still active and valid, and it has not expired, because the minute you overstay your time, you're no longer eligible. The second thing is, as of September, what I just said, most likely you cannot do an adjustment of status, meaning you cannot do the green card application until a priority date is available to you, which right now, anyone that filed after September 1st, it's not available to you, unfortunately. So kind of sucks. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to be continuing part 3, and I think that's my last part of, signs of abuse, in a marriage. Enjoy chatting with you guys. I will be on tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. All right, guys. I hope you have an amazing rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay, bye.